Hey guys, how you doing? Welcome to the video. Welcome to my garage, although we're not in the garage yet. In this video, I'm going to do a garage tour now that I've been in this new garage for about a year. But this is now 2021. It's after New Year's, and in 2020 last year, I was so focused on getting the garage organized and set up to be usable as a shop and trying to squeak in work on Ratchet when I could, I pretty much left Mauler alone. As a matter of fact, the only thing I did do with Mauler is took him apart some, so when I was making the fiberglass panels and whatnot. So for 2021, since probably most of this year I'll still be working on getting Ratchet up and running and finalizing him and all that, I want to get Mauler back on the road so that I can play around with him a little bit and do more than just nothing but wrenching in the garage. A lot of the things that I do on Ratchet are because of things that I learned on Mauler, so I want to continue running around with Mauler so that if there's any more feedback that he can give me while I'm finishing Ratchet, I want to grab that while I can. So before we do a tour, I'm going to go into the garage and I'm going to throw the wing on, throw the fenders on, put the windshield in, put the one-piece front end on, fire it up. I'm not sure I ran it at all last year, so I want to fire it up, and I'm just going to drive around some of the gravel roads around by my house just to warm it up, cycle things through. Then I'll bring it back home, and then we'll do a little shop tour. In this video, I'm just going to give you guys a quick walkthrough of the shop or the garage, whatever you want to call it. It's not going to be super entailed, but just to kind of show you guys what the layout is, because I hope I've laid a lot of it out so that it kind of flows and helps with my work productivity. So the meat and potatoes of this garage is over here. This is just a regular two-car garage. It's probably 20 by 20. Like most garage are. But this side, which would typically be, hey Doug, why don't you stay inside, bud? All right? You need to be in here while I'm filming this, so stop pawing at the side door. This side, which would typically be your third stall, on this garage, they call it an RV garage, and really all it means is that the third bay is 45 feet long, it's 14 and a half feet wide, and it's 15 feet tall. As you can see, I've got a loft back there. Knowing that at least in the back portion I wouldn't have anything tall, I made the lower area, like I kind of consider that my main fabrication area, and then I've utilized the space as much as I can. Obviously, I've got the loft back there, and then up above me here is the trailer, which is stored on a lift that I made, and I'll put a little link to the video where I kind of highlight that, so I'm not going to focus on that right now. So although I have a lot of space in here, I try to be real conscious with what I have in here and with my space, just because even though I do have a lot of space, I'll run out of space very quickly. So you can see what I've got set up on the side here is a bunch of racks for scraps of really anything. There's round tube up on top with some rectangular, some pieces of wood. You get down to the bottom here, that's where I'll stack aluminum, steel, whatever. So that's where I try to keep most of that stuff. This is what I call my grinding station. The reason I have this set up like this is so that I can quickly and easily grab these grinders. They've got an outlet, so they're usually plugged in right here. And because grinding is so nasty, yeah, of course, there goes both dogs. But I do a lot of my grinding right out the side door here. You can see there's already stains on the fence there, but weather permitting, if I can do the grinding outside, I do. If I do have to do some minor grinding in here, I'll usually just do it right down here. Sometimes I'll have a 5-gallon bucket down here, and I'll actually grind and shoot the sparks down into the bucket. But regardless, I essentially consider this my grinding center. And then if we go up the stairs here, and I don't really consider these stairs, I consider this a ship's ladder because they're steeper than regular stairs, because I didn't want them to take up too much space. This is essentially just a large area that's, you know, never going to be crowded by vehicles or anything like that. I've got a 6-foot by 3-foot work table up here. I've got the CNC plasma cutter, a 2-foot by 8-foot workbench, and then a 2-foot by 16-foot workbench over here. It's all kind of a mess, but it does actually flow pretty well. I'm sure I've only been in here for a little over a year. I still have plans to make things a little bit more nicer, a little bit more productive, but you know, you can't wait forever to do stuff like that. And I've got my little handbrake up here. I've got my tubing bender, which is on wheels, so I just roll it out to this area when I need to use that. And I've got my little cheap Harbor Freight press right there. And my little shear over here. Here I keep my Evolution chop saw. My little bar stock bender, which actually, this thing is very useful when you're making control arms. And then I've got a drum sander, a belt sander, and a disc sander. And I do have a little exhaust fan down here, which can be switched over to this disc sander, or you can swap the hoses, and it actually pulls from the bottom of the plasma cutter over here to help get some of the fumes from that out. And then I also have 2 fans mounted up in the ceiling above the plasma cutter. And actually, when I do use this, and I have these 2 fans going, and the exhaust fan here, which also pumps up into the attic space, I mean, it smells up here, but it doesn't actually make the entire garage stink. And then over here, although still a mess, I kind of consider this my drilling area. I've got my drill press here. I've got the punch, this is one of my greatest tools. I absolutely love this thing. And then up here I've got bins for my hole saws and drill bits of different sizes, and my equipment for clamping things down in the drill. And then this is kind of just a catch-all. This is where I did a lot of my fiberglass mixing and things like that. And then of course just totes with all sorts of miscellaneous stuff. Alright, so let's go down to the main fabrication area. So this is what I consider the main fabrication area. This is the area underneath the loft. You can see there's a bunch of carpets in here. This neighborhood is a new neighborhood, so what I've been doing is, as we're walking the dogs, if I see a dumpster with a bunch of carpet remnants where they just carpeted a house, I'll grab them and I'll throw them on the floor here, because since Ratchet here is my current project and I do a lot of the work on the ground, you know, I want it to be nice and cozy as much as possible. And I'm pretty clean. If I do a bunch of welding or grinding or something, I'll usually run around with the vacuum and keep it pretty clean. So sometimes you'll see me out here, not right now because it's cold, but I'll be out here in my bare feet, and you know, it's just nice. It keeps the noise down and the dogs like it. And so, but anyways, that's what all the carpet is. They're just all carpet remnants that I throw around on the floor. This is my mobile workbench. This thing will sometimes be up against the wall. Sometimes you'll see it next to the project. Sometimes it sits over here. It's on wheels, so it can go anywhere. and it is narrow enough that it will fit through the door, so I can actually take it out the door, and sometimes I'll go down and work on it in the back. So it's very mobile, very multi-purpose. I've got my pegboard on this wall, which is extremely useful for tools that I use on a regular basis, like clamps and things like that. So things that I don't want to have to open a drawer for every time I grab will usually end up on the pegboard here. This is where the bandsaw sits. It's pretty nice here. Pull it out, use it. If I need a little bit more space and I'm not using it, you can just turn it sideways and then it's real tight to the wall, so it doesn't take up a lot of space. And then depending on what you're cutting, if you need to move it around, you can. So it works out really well just living in this general area. I hang my floor jacks on the wall here. I have this is a little 6-inch shelf right here. As you can see, it's a catch-all. I knew it would be a catch-all. This is my, my levels and markers and tape measures and all sorts of little catch-all items that I didn't want to put a full workbench over here. My original idea was to have this workbench is 8 feet long by 2 feet deep. I was going to have one of those on either side, but when I actually got into the space here and looked at how much space that would take up, it would make it so that working on whatever vehicle was in the middle here, you were kind of restricted on each side. But I knew that I needed something over here as a catch-all, so I did this thin little bench, which has totally paid off. It's so useful for it's a catch-all. I mean, I keep it clean enough so that I can see what's up there, but that's what it is. It's a catch-all for this side of the shop, and it's worked out really, really well. I've got my organizing bins over here with basically just nuts and bolts. I want to put another one of these bin things down here, and then my plan for this space is to eventually have a nice little flat screen up here, maybe with a little DVD player, so I can watch stuff up there, but I just haven't got to that point yet. The back wall here, I've got a dry erase board mounted over here, a dry erase board mounted over there. I really like dry erase boards when I'm just sketching things out. As I'm, making little pieces, I'll come up to the dry erase board here and do my sketches and my rough dimensions, so I can figure all that out, and then that way I'm not wasting paper or anything like that. And then over here we've got, this is kind of like my main workbench. This is the workbench that I work on most of the time. I've got a little tube type TV DVD player, which is here right now, but once I get a TV going up on that wall, this will be gone and it'll give me a little bit more prime workbench space here. A little more pegboard on the back of this wall, just holding drills and wrenches and whatnot. And of course a little shelf up there that's kind of a catch-all, but it holds some miscellaneous stuff. Of course some shelving down here that just holds whatever. There's the new dog Kevin hanging out with me in the shop. Who doesn't like that? And my main toolbox with just all sorts of various tools and whatnot up top. Like most people, I've got my battery chargers and whatnot. And then over here under the stairs, because this seemed like a good location, I've got my MIG welder, and then this is my TIG welder. Keep the tanks back here. I've got a 220 volt outlet back there, so that works pretty well. And then depending on what I'm welding on, I'll just pull those out and use them. They both have fairly long cords on them, but I also have a 20-foot extension cord if I need to use the welder like all the way on the far end of the garage or something. I've got a little a little rack system right here for the totes. I like totes. I keep a lot of stuff organized in totes. I'm pretty happy with this. It allows me to store a lot of space in a thin little area. So I think I'm going to do the same thing right here. So I'll have another rack going up. So I'll be able to get some totes going here, and then I'll probably put some small shelves on the outside here just as catch-alls for some little stuff. So there's still some stuff that I'm working on. I mean, obviously I'll be working on this forever, but it is at this point where it's very functional. I can get a lot of stuff done, and I feel like I'm not wasting a lot of energy by moving things around. There's obviously still a lot of things that I'll be changing as it evolves, but within the first year of being here, it is already to the point where, I'm out here pretty much every single day. I spend a lot of time out here. It's relatively cozy. I don't really have heat in here yet. I do have a wall-mounted electric heater, which makes this area under the loft tolerable, but I think for next year I'll probably have a gas-fired unit heater up in the ceiling somewhere, but I don't have that yet this year, which is not the end of the world. But it's worked out real well for working on the Bajas. It's really just a big garage that, for me, everybody's got a different way that they want things to flow, and this one works out really well for the way that I operate and the volume of work that I do, which by saying that I'm meaning I don't do a lot of volume because I'm just a garage builder. So that's it for the video, guys. Just wanted to give you a little walkthrough of the shop to give you a little bit of an idea of what I've got to work with. So hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for taking the time to watch the video, and I hope to see you on the next one. Take care.